what's up you guys, it's Brian and I am doing a big sale in my District Line store. Every single shirt is $10 or less to celebrate March Madness and spring and summer coming around here soon. Go check it out for the next 2 weeks. Every single shirt is $10 and you can get 5 bracelets for $8 if that interests you as well. Go to districtlines.com/BrianStars to check it out. Hey, what's up you guys, it's Brian and yesterday I made a video called The Rudest Bands That I Ever Met. If you didn't see that video, click the card. A lot of you guys seem to really enjoy it. So because of that, I'm gonna film a video where I talk about the nicest bands that I ever met. I met a lot of bands during my career. I know I talk about that a lot, but most of them were really, really nice, but the ones that really stood out to me, I'm gonna mention in this video. So here we go. Here are the nicest bands that I ever got to work with. Let's get started. So the first band I want to talk about in this video is Blood on the Dance Floor. Now I realize that there's a lot of drama around the band and people have always said weird things about them, but you know, I always try and ignore drama because a lot of people say things about me that aren't true, and I've heard people say stuff about other YouTubers and bands that I know is not true. So I don't know what is or isn't true about the band. All I can speak on is my experience with them, and my experience with them has always been really positive. They were very polite to me, they were polite to their crew, they were polite to their fans, like even when they didn't think I was watching or whatever. And my favorite thing about them was how they treated my dad. So when I interviewed them, Blood on the Dance Floor interview number 2, my dad was the camera guy. After the interview was done, my dad and Jay talked for like 10 or 15 minutes, and they actually, I think, became friends after that. And my dad actually went with me to the 3rd interview with Blood on the Dance Floor, and once again, like, Jay was happy to see my dad, and he called him Papa Stars or Daddy Stars or something like that. And you know, throughout my entire career, Jay was just very, very nice to me and to my dad. And Dobby was also very supportive. And anytime I had like any sort of issue, like if I had a copyright problem or if I needed, you know, this or that, or I wanted to schedule a new interview, they always got it done. And I always really appreciated that, and to this day, like, Jay added me on Facebook the other day. Like, I still stay in touch with these guys, and I really appreciate all of their support through the years. Another band that I always loved working with was Asking Alexandria. So that's another band that had a really wild reputation. Like, apparently they have sex all the time and they drink all the time and they party like crazy and blah blah blah. And I remember Danny Worsnop was going through some stuff the first time I met him. But once again, like, when I actually met these guys, they were one of the most respectful bands that I ever was around. Like, when fans came up for pictures, they took the picture. When I needed to do an interview, they did the interview and they did it for an hour. You know, there was no time limit, there was no rush. It was like, whatever you need, we're gonna get it done. You know, if I needed a photo pass, I got a photo pass. If you go watch the Asking Alexandria interviews, like, they let me film anything I wanted and I could use any footage I wanted. Like, whatever I needed, it was done. My all-time favorite memory of Asking Alexandria is when I was at South by So What. I didn't even have an interview scheduled with Asking Alexandria. I was just sitting in the press room and Danny saw me, Danny Worsnop, and he's like, "Brian, get over here!" So he calls me over and he says, "Let's do an interview." So we go to his bus, we drink a beer, we do an interview, and then afterwards he wants me to come and film the show. So I get to go front row, like, you know, in the pit or whatever, to film Asking Alexandria. The security guard, when the show started, tried to throw me out because I didn't have a photo pass. And Danny actually stopped singing a song briefly in front of like 5,000 people, literally stopped singing, points at the security guard and says, hey, he's fine, leave him alone." And like, this big, huge security guard literally was like, "Oh, okay, my bad." And I was allowed to keep filming. So like, with all these people, like 5,000 people, and Danny's on stage singing a song, he actually stopped performing to help me during a show. And I've never forgotten that, and I will always appreciate the fact that he did that, and the fact that he did an interview that day, and they were just always a really great band to me, and I really do hope maybe down the road that I do another interview with those guys. But Yes, like Asking Alexandria, super nice band, super great guys. So my third story involves Sleeping with Sirens. They're another band that was super nice to me, and this is actually, I think out of all my interview stories, my favorite story involving anything. Like, this was my favorite experience with a band. So somehow I got Kellin Quinn's number. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I got Kellin Quinn's number. I sound like such a fangirl. So I got his number, and I remember I texted him and I was like, hey dude, can we do an interview soon? Because at the time I hadn't interviewed them in like a year, and I was starting to feel like fans really wanted another Sleeping with Sirens interview. And he texted me back and he's like, sure, come to the San Francisco date, we'll get it done. And I was like, okay. Now, I didn't know if this was actually Kellin Quinn. It could have been someone fucking with me. It could have been a joke, you know? And I lived in Nebraska at the time, so buying a plane ticket to San Francisco based on one text message was kind of risky, but I decided to do it. I flew to San Francisco. Damon Fizzy and Chris the Bunny came with me, and we pretty much waited around all day wondering if that was actually Kellin Quinn or if someone had just fucked with us and we went to this show based on a text message. A couple hours before the show started, Kellin Quinn finally called me and said, yeah dude, like let's do the interview, blah blah blah. And we ended up doing it. It ended up being a great interview. After the interview was done, Sleeping with Sirens invited us to hang out backstage. So we got to hang out with Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Sirens and Tonight Alive backstage. And we got to film Sleeping with Sirens set, and we got to watch Pierce the Veil do the finale and play King for a Day. And basically just like the whole experience was such a trip, literally, because I flew across the country. Damon and Chris also traveled across the country, and we did all of this based on one text message. But in the end, it all worked out, and to this day, that is still my all-time favorite video, I think, that I've posted. Sleeping with Sirens, interview number 3. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out, but yeah. Alright, so I could probably sit here all day and talk about bands that I love working with, and I'll probably make a part 2 of this. I mean, there's All Time Low, Motionless in White, Pierce the Veil, but the final band I feel like I definitely need to talk about in this video is Black Veil Brides. So, look, I've always loved this band, and probably the main reason for that, if I'm being blunt, is Andy. The first time I ever interviewed Andy was at a pretty small show. I think there was like 100 people there. So this was like 5 or 6 years ago, and they weren't very big. I actually didn't know who Black Veil Brides was the first time that I interviewed them. I remember thinking that it might be a female band because I thought of like, you know, veils and weddings, and I thought it was some sort of, I don't know, a female band. So I was actually quite surprised when this big, tall guy covered in makeup came up to me. I was a little bit intimidated actually, but it ended up being super nice, super friendly, and that interview like exploded. Like so many people watched it, and that was probably my first big interview from the alternative rock scene. And from there, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, the second interview with Matt Good was even more crazy, and the third one and the fourth one. But the main reason I loved working with Andy so much is he really, like, believed in my show and believed in the format and played along with it and made it even better, you know? Like, he would do all the questions that I brought. The interviews were like an hour long, and he gave me so much material to make the interviews as good as possible. So it wasn't like, let's get this over with. It was like, I'm gonna do the very best that I can for you, Brian, to make sure that this interview is the best that it can be, because I know this is really important for you. And I could just tell that like he gave 110% in the interviews, and it helped my career a lot, and I really appreciated that. And that's why no matter what, like, no matter whatever happens, I've always had his back too, and I support him so much because he's probably the biggest reason that my channel blew up, and I've always appreciated that. The other thing about Andy is like, when I've been attacked or I've been thrown under the bus, like when Never Shout Never had that whole fiasco, Andy stood up for me, you know, like, and he did it boldly, like in an interview that was seen by 2 million people. He had my back. And when I went through this drama recently, he had me on the Andy show, and he had my back. So Andy is one of the people, despite how big and famous Black Veil Brides has gotten, he still has always stood by my side, and that's why I will always appreciate Andy. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like. And if you want to hear more stories from my time with doing these interviews, let me know. I can make maybe a part 2 of this and maybe talk about Motionless in White, Pierce the Veil, all-time low. Don't worry, they were all nice, no drama. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Feel free to give it a like if you did. Subscribe, because I will make more of these probably in the future. And if you want to see links to all the interviews I talked about in this video, click the cards on the video or click the link in the description and you guys can check it out. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you with a brand new video very soon. Bye guys!
I'm 1,000 miles closer to everything I wanna be. And who I am is exactly who I'm supposed to be.